What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
One of the more interesting stories is that someone from that had experience in special forces and the intelligence community. I was running by the list with them, and they said you need to take those two names off your list and never talk about those two people ever again. If you and they said they would have no problem having you killed.
Who said this to who?
I won't say.
Okay.
Wow. But that's the kind of chilling moment when you realize that there may be some bad actors involved in this. So
absolutely, that is very chilling.
Very skeptical that we're going to see any meaningful disclosure from the Trump administration. I'm very sorry to disappoint you and your lovely audience, but I get the impression that Mr. Trump used the statement about UFOs primarily as a distraction from the ongoing coverage of the Epstein case. All of my sources in government, and including some at high levels in the Trump administration, tell me that this came as a complete surprise to them, that there is no plan, there is no organized rollout of any type of disclosure.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. All right, Vetters, so what's today's video about? Well, we've got some different comments from Ross Coulthart and Representative Eric Burlison from the great state of Missouri. He recently did an AMA with James Fox and Leslie Kane on Reddit, and we've got some comments from that. And of course, like I said, Ross Coulthart. So let's start off with the Ross Coulthart comments. I've got a couple different clips. Here's number one.
Very skeptical that we're going to see any meaningful disclosure from the Trump administration. I'm very sorry to disappoint you and your lovely audience, but I get the impression that Mr. Trump used the statement about UFOs primarily as a distraction from the ongoing coverage of the Epstein case. All of my sources in government, and including some at high levels in the Trump administration, tell me that this came as a complete surprise to them, that there is no plan, there is no organized rollout of any type of disclosure. What we do know is that when he did an interview with Joe Rogan in the months prior to the last election, President Trump did promise that he would seek to declassify UFO videos and imagery. And maybe that's what he's talking about.
All right, so that doesn't sound very optimistic, right? Coming from Ross. Now, this is, again, another case of my sources told me. And basically, we just have this group of people behind the scenes that are feeding information to all the different journalists, podcasters, and UFO researchers. And we don't know if these are the same people, how many of them are there. And they're the ones that put out all the information by proxy through other people. So we basically never get, right, the information from the horse's mouth. How complicated is that? Very complicated, right? So then we're just left to deal with what actually happens. And to be fair, at the end of the day, that's really all we can do, right? There's really not much else we can do, because hanging on the word of sources really just doesn't benefit anyone except the person that has those sources, right? Again, it's just another round of, I'm being told, I'm told, right? Which, whatever. I understand journalists need sources. I get it. But in the UFO community, that's all there is, right? That's literally all there is. And we saw how that turned out with that UK filmmaker and the disclosure speech and all of that, right? His source turned out to be bogus, right? And how many of these are bogus that people never actually come out and say, yeah, it's bogus, right? So whatever. I just take it this information with a grain of salt. And look, Ross is doing his best. I get it. Nothing against him personally. But, you know, is that the truth? What he's saying? Nobody knows. Now, do I personally think, just based off of history and what's going on and everything? Yeah, I think Trump is just talking about different files and UFO videos. Again, Arrow is handling the declassification of the UFO files, which they were already doing. So it's actually like nothing happened, and Trump just kind of, everyone was all excited about it. And the reason people get so excited in the UFO community about this kind of stuff is because we're literally walking around in the dark the entire time, and every once in a while a candle gets lit and people freak out because they got a little bit of light. And you know, at the end of the day, I can't blame people, right? There's really nothing to hang on to. It's like rock climbing, and you finally get a good little grip of something. At least I can get a finger on there, you know, when it was flat up until this point. So I get it. Right? I get why people get excited about little things that really just don't mean anything at the end of the day. Because the community and the information is just set up that way. So, you know, we're kind of rowing against the wind here. So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. And was Trump using this to sort of detract or distract from the Epstein case and the files and everything? I mean, now we're at war with Iran, so everything with Epstein is kind of taking a dip, right? I mean, I don't know. Let me know what you think. A guy just won $1 million by creating an AI film using VO3 on the stage of the 1 Billion Followers Summit, hosted by the UAE government. A 19-year-old girl runs an AI automated agency and earns $100,000 a month. And the most recent report from Forbes shows that employees who use AI at work are earning 40% more than those who don't. The AI employment paradox is alive, and February matters because the early adoptive phase is over. So the question is simple: will you watch this shift or win from it? Introducing Outskill, the first ever AI-focused educational platform to accelerate AI learning for people like you and me. They're hosting the 2-day AI Mastermind training live this Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern on both days. And right now is the perfect moment to join because you can get in absolutely free for the next 48 hours. This 16 hours AI training has already built 10 million plus AI first professionals worldwide and is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. People from marketing, finance, operations, product, and engineering. Join this just because this is not specific to any one industry, but is now needed across every one of them. This is where you learn how to build AI agents that plan, write, execute, and report for you, automate workflows that run even while you sleep, connect tools like Sheets, Notion, CRMs, and email to create profitable systems. Use AI to save hours every week and get an unfair advantage at work. Not just that, you'll learn how to profit from these skills. People from this very training have launched AI-powered services that bring in 3 to 4K weekly by just applying the systems they're taught. To kickstart your year, you'll also get premium lifetime bonuses like the AI Prompt Bible, the AI Profit Roadmap, your personalized AI Toolkit Builder, only if you attend both days. And here's the most interesting part. When you sign up, you'll get access to the 2026 AI Survival Hackbook, a comprehensive compilation of the upcoming AI shifts in 2026 and the practical steps you can take to be prepared. Seats are limited. Use the link in the description to join. And join the WhatsApp community to stay updated before the big blast.
I noticed that the head of the US Space Command was interviewed today, and he said in response to Mr. Trump's announcement that he would look forward to hearing what is going to be released, but he said that he'd never seen any evidence himself of any type of extraterrestrial evidence in any of the imagery that he has on his space platforms. And I can tell you that sits completely opposite to what I'm being told by people who've given evidence to congressional committees. My understanding is that congressional committees have been told about sightings of apparent craft that are not human by orbital platforms used by the United States. So somebody's not telling the truth. And I think so long as we have this situation where the heads of government agencies are clearly operating under some kind of caveat, some kind of constraint, I don't think, unless we see a meaningful statement from President Trump where he says categorically all of this information will be released, I truly do not see any real effort to declassify or release any kind of information. And certainly, I don't believe that this is the beginning of a rollout of the fact of the existence of a legacy retrieval and reverse engineering program.
So, look, the interview that Ross is talking about is this clip right here that people shared.
We're conducting this interview 18 hours after President Trump, who you've praised repeatedly in this conversation, said that he was planning to declassify material related to UFOs, what gets called UAPs now. He described it as something like a very complex and interesting topic. Does NASA have anything to declassify that would be of interest to viewers of this program?
I'm not aware of anything that we would have at NASA to declassify, other than say that I'm as interested in, the president's message as probably any other space enthusiast out there. Now, I will say, having, I spent 10 years leading a defense contracting company. We operated fighter jets all across the country, simulating, bad guy capabilities. Say, look, there are a lot of, as you would expect, exquisite capabilities that we have as a nation for national security purposes that we have developed. All we have to do is look to the history books, right? SR-71 was a pretty wild capability in the 1960s. Nobody would have imagined that. F-117 was pretty wild. So do I think that there are probably capabilities we have as a nation that we developed and our adversaries that can do some pretty impressive things, sure. So I wouldn't be surprised if that were...
So that puts you in the camp that says a lot of the UAP, UFO sort of encounters and also sort of vapors around it are covers for human technologies.
Yes, I would say, generally speaking, I think there are some that I'm aware of that were very easily explainable by not even phenomenon. Like this was a weather balloon at great range that reflected. I know those conclusively. I also know conclusively some of them were related to test programs that were out there. I mean, look, people misidentified a lot of what was flying in the 1960s and 80s. In the middle of the desert with lights on at night, looked strange. Turned out it was B-2. Turned out it was F-117. So I'm not surprised that could potentially fall in it. I would also ask people, again, this is a good, kind of Occam's razor thing. If there was intelligent life that visited us from another world, where would you be interested in going to observe us? I mean, Times Square seems like a good spot. The Las Vegas Strip seems like a good spot. I mean, there's got to be interesting areas. Why would you always pick our naval bases? Why would you pick off the coast of Virginia or San Diego or Hawaii? That probably signals it's more of a national security interest, I would say.
That makes sense, although I will say that there have been a number of UFO reports related to nuclear facilities. And you could imagine some reasons why a extraterrestrial species would be interested in our nuclear capacities.
I could also imagine that,
or even these capacities here.
Or again, there's a lot of other people that are interested in our strategic deterrent as well.
Yeah.
I joke a little bit that I say that in my 60 days at NASA, I've certainly seen things that I can't explain, but they relate entirely to programs to build things that I have no idea why we're doing, but not aliens.
President Trump authorized the declassification of several records, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs, extraterrestrial life. Look, you've got access to all kinds of classified information. Do you believe that there is life outside of Earth?
I would say, and this has absolutely nothing to do with classified information, as a lifelong space enthusiast since kindergarten, having been to space twice as an astronaut, it is hard not to imagine that somewhere out there across 2 trillion galaxies and however many star systems inside them with however many exoplanets and Goldilocks zones, yes, I have to believe that there is life out there somewhere. Do I believe intelligent life has visited Earth? I have not seen any evidence of that whatsoever, and nothing in any classified files or historic documentation would ever support that. I have to believe it is out there somewhere. I believe that if we are able to get to Mars and bring back samples from Mars, we will probably, with like greater than 90% confidence, have some evidence of microbial life. Now, that is not the aliens we see in the movies, but it would be a proof point that there is life outside of Earth. I think it is inevitable, only a matter of time, as more probes, more telescopes go out there and we venture out farther into the solar system, we will find that there is at least biosignatures outside of Earth.
Now, the issue with this is the way Ross described in his clip was, what he said was interesting because he kind of said two different things, and I don't know if he was contradicting himself or just, there's more context. But, right, the head of the space agency or whatever here who just spoke, right, is saying, yeah, he hasn't seen anything. But then Ross saying that's just not true. There, people have told stories behind the scenes. But okay, but then he also said they provided evidence. But which is it? Did they actually provide evidence and proof, or they just told Congress things? Because again, and who are these people, right? We don't know, right? And again, did they provide evidence and proof, or did they just say that these things happened? Because that just seems to be, again, the same old story. They just say things, but of course Congress can't work off of that, right? And why wouldn't the space agency be, okay, well, where's this evidence? Where's this proof, right? I mean, they're equally kind of, taken aback by it as well. Okay, they're just stories. But you can't make actionable movements off of just stories. Sorry, right? There needs to be proof. Now, I know Congress has seen some things and different members of Congress have seen things, but clearly it's not enough to move anything. Right? If it was so just, bombshell, right, and extraordinary, it would move other members of Congress. There's just no doubt in my mind about that. Now, I could be wrong, of course, and this is all speculation in my opinion, but let me know what you think, right? I mean, if it was such great evidence and proof, wouldn't things be moving around, things be moving a lot better and quicker, right? Wouldn't Congress, these members that have seen this stuff, stop at nothing? Right? They deal with all these other issues, right? I mean, why would you deal with anything else if this was so true? Right? So, again, let's go to Representative Eric Burlison because he made a lot of different comments in this AMA that I want to cover and pick apart this idea that because members of Congress are shown things, why aren't more things being done? And maybe we'll be able to figure that out.
They had observed, actually, what he had said is a very large object that was moving on the ocean floor that we can see from whatever surveillance techniques that we have, and that he was working on.
I've talked to a couple of individuals that's described a video that they've seen it personally in the intelligence community that shared this with me, that there's an object underwater that's traveling at 500, 600, 700 miles an hour at the size of a football field. Have you heard anything about this, Congressman?
I flew to go visit a whistleblower who refused to go to DC. And to myself and Representative Luna met with an individual who worked for one of the big private contractors and gave us a personal narrative of his experience and the field in which he worked in. That's what his claim was that they had observed on, actually what he had said is a very large object that was moving on the ocean floor that we can see from whatever surveillance techniques that we have, and that he was working on.
Was it moving very quickly?
But again, it's a great narrative, and I'm not saying that the individual is lying to me, but I also am saying I don't have proof. He couldn't give me any evidence.
So again, a great story with no evidence or proof, right? So this is what Congress has to deal with. And then people are wondering, why aren't more things happening? That's why things aren't happening. And again, Congress is only going to deal with that for so long. How long do you think Eric Burlison is going to be interested in the UFO topic if he just keeps getting told stories with never any proof or evidence, right? And now he's starting to go places, find things out, right? Like, again, you're telling people to come to the party, this awesome party where Snoop Dogg's going to be DJing and you got that. And then what's going to happen when people show up and realize it's not Snoop D-O-double-G, it's like Snoop Cat, some other guy, right? Who, you know, an impersonator, right? Like, they're never going to trust this again, right? So it's, in a lot of ways, the UFO community and the people pushing for disclosure are only shooting themselves in the foot by drawing all this attention, saying, hey, look at me, and then you don't have anything to look at. You're crying wolf over and over again. And this is only going to hurt the push for disclosure, in my opinion, right? So I'm just saying, it's unless some real proof or evidence starts to be shown, this is only hurting the topic and the push for, quote, disclosure, right? Let's continue.
Next question from Reddit, from Are UFOs from Toxic Toy? Representative Burlison, are any of these individuals on your radar as potential high-level legacy program gatekeepers? And then there's a list of names here. Lieutenant General Donna Shipton, Randall G. Walden, Russell E. Weiler, Terry Phillips, or Lee M. Russ. They hold positions within AFOSI PJ Special Projects, Northrop Grumman Executives, Air Force Acquisition, Technology and Logistics, Special Access Program Security Directors, National Reconnaissance Office, and others.
I'm going to take a picture of that list. Good. Can
Yes.
we put that back up? I want to take a picture of that list.
Somebody has done a lot of research on this, obviously. And I think
I'll have to cross-reference that with the list that I have. But yeah, the interesting story. I as I've been talking to people, I put together a list of names of people to talk to, and I kind of keep that list and add more names to it.
Mhm.
One of the more interesting stories is that someone from that had experience in special forces and the intelligence community. I was running by the list with them, and they said you need to take those two names off your list and never talk about those two people ever again. If you and they said they would have no problem having you killed.
Who said this to who?
I won't say.
Okay. Wow.
But that's the kind of chilling moment when you realize that that there may be some bad actors involved in this. So
absolutely, that is very chilling. Yeah, so maybe we shouldn't go on anymore into those names because we don't have any.
Well, can I say something really quickly? I went to the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident, and it was amazing because at the time, if people were in their 20s in 47 or 30s, they were in their 70s and 80s. So a lot of people were still alive. And I was just getting my feet wet with the phenomenon. I was working on my first documentary at the time. I was almost done with it. And I remember a lot of the people telling me, the firsthand witnesses at the Roswell 50th anniversary, and different people, and I have a lot of them on camera, saying that they were threatened that not only would their bones be picked out of the desert, but their families' bones. And they were serious when they told me this. I had a difficult time thinking that our own government would be capable of doing, threatening their own citizens, particularly military folks, but that's what they said.
Now, this is an interesting story from Eric Burlison, and I would be questioning that guy. So what do you mean? I'm a sitting member of Congress, and you're saying they would have me killed? When's the last time a sitting member of Congress had his life taken? Right? I would be just so like, what are you talking about? I would report that to the Secret Service, right? Why isn't Burlison reporting this to the authorities, right? He must feel that it's not a real threat, right? And it's almost like they say that so that you're now more worried about those two names. Who are those two names, right? That they must be important now, right? And it's just some guy from Special Force telling, hey, they'd have no problem having you killed. Based on what? Based on what evidence, right? Why wouldn't Eric Burlison ask that? Based on what? Based on what evidence? Again, too many people with credentials are saying things, and just because they have credentials, they don't have to provide any proof or evidence. And they're basically writing their credibility, which to some extent I get. It gets you in the door, you get sat down, you get listened to, but only after a while, right? Again, these type of things being told to Eric Burlison, if things don't start to come to fruition, he's gonna bounce on this, just like every other member of Congress who's interested in this. They're eventually just going to bounce, and then the rumors will get around to not get involved in this because there is just stories. So I don't know. I just think it's put up or shut up time, right?
I spent the entire day with the White House staff, almost the entire day, and into the late evening. And at one point in that conversation, I said, look, while I've got you, and I said, this has this has nothing to do with how I will vote on this bill. But since you're here, I need your help. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm on this team. We're tasked with doing this, but we keep getting the hand in the face every time we request anything. We keep getting blocked. We keep getting told that, that we don't have access or that we don't have a need to know. And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, okay, what I want is I want a White House level briefing. Same briefing that the president. If you're taking the request, that's my highest request. Furthermore, I would like to be able to have a green light to go visit some of these locations. And the gentleman that I was asking kind of smirked, and I said, "Is this comical to you? Is this? Do you think that this is? I'm not a serious person." He said, "No." He goes, "I just want to go with you." And so.
Wow.
And turns out he did. He was able to go with me. He had to follow the proper channels as well. And we visited the first of many sites, hopefully. I'm going to be cautious in talking about that because I don't want to jeopardize the ability to go to the remaining locations, if you will. I truly think that for them, this was a test of whether or not this would become a circus for them, and so I think that I'm just treading cautiously before I release too much information about what I've learned and where I went.
Congressman, when you say you went to visit the site, are you implying that the alleged site that could potentially be housing non-human technology is that kind of what one is alleging here?
Yeah, or once did house non-human technology. Right.
Got
so
it.
That was now from my insights from Grush and others, they had it was pretty obvious that first site that we were going to did not have active material, but potentially could have in the past.
So, all right, look, Eric Burlison is putting in the groundwork, right? And he's going, but I guarantee you, and people are interested in this, right? That's why the guy wanted to go along. Again, you can get people excited, but as soon as people see that it's a facade, like in North Korea where they got convenience stores and it's just like fruit, like fake fruit and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Remember that scene from The Interview where James Franco's like, oh, this is a plastic apple, right? This is just wallpaper. Like, this isn't even real. That's what's going to happen, right? You give the illusion that there's something going on, and then once people find out it's kind of bunk, I'm just telling you, this is not going to be good in the end. These are short-term gains for a lot of people, right? I don't know why. Maybe sell some books, get some documentary, build up a profile, but then again, where's this going, right? And look, I'm glad he's going to visit sites. I mean that. I genuinely mean that. Do I wish he was going with sites with the active material? Of course, but I understand what he's trying to do. Just, okay, let's just do one. I'm not going to talk too much because I don't want it to become a circus, right? Because a big part of the UFO community can be completely toxic, which absolutely hurts the entire community and just humanity and just being human in general. But again, of course, what's he going to find? Right? I mean, just to play devil's advocate, like what's he going to find going to these places? I'm glad he's going, but what steps are you taking? I mean, you're just walking in the front door and like, show me the UFOs. Like, what does this look like? You know what I mean? What are the protocols when you show up to these places? You know what I mean? Well, let's get you a coffee and let's sit down in the boardroom. You know, are you actually getting tours? Or are you just sitting down? Like, you know what I mean? What are they going to actually show you or tell you? Right? Are you looking for clues? Like, I mean, I just don't know. You're showing up in a van with a dog and a blonde-haired woman, you know, Scooby-Doo stuff. Like, what are we doing? I'm curious what the protocols are for when Burlison and other members of Congress go to these places, right? What are they doing? Are they going to take pictures? Are they going to come back with that? Like, what are they going to say? Is Eric Burlison going to come back one day and be like, I found the UFO? I mean, let's be real. Let's say if he saw something, you think they're going to let him get on a plane and go? He's already been told he could be, you know, I'm just saying, I just don't know what the end game is, right? It's like, we don't just need a congressman to show up. Let's find out exactly where this stuff is and get, you know, I don't know, Navy SEALs, Rangers, I don't know. To bust in and take care of this stuff. I just don't know any other way, right? Like, live stream it, right? Live stream it. Go with speed. Go with ISO speed. That way it could be live streamed the entire time and they can't mess with you, right? It's being live streamed to the world. I don't know, man. Have Mr. Beast make a video there. I don't know what is going to bring all the attention. But yes, I understand what he's doing, and I don't fault Congress. I'm telling you, they're doing the best they can. They got 1 million people coming at them with all kinds of stories, no evidence, and they're just trying to do the best they can, right? I'm more critical of all the people chirping in their ear with all kinds of nonsense. It's just hurting it for everyone because everyone's got a different story and everyone's got a different tactic and everyone says they know the truth and their sources and blah, 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 right? Let me know what you think down below. Let's continue.
I'm announcing this with you right now is that we put out a letter that was sent yesterday to Marco Rubio, to Pete Hegseth, to Tulsi Gabbard, and to Chris Wright in the DOE. That is a letter from myself that's signed by Nancy Mace, Eli Crane, Scott Perry, Anna Polina Luna, Tim Burchett, Subramaniam, a Democrat member, and Andre Carson, who's a Democrat member. So of note is the two individuals on this list that signed this letter are on the Intelligence Committee. So you have the task force and the members of the Intelligence Committee asking for basically following up on the president's truth, and then furthermore, specifically giving a list of items, file names that and the dates of these files, the metadata on these files that we're aware of, but we do not have the files themselves, and so this letter is requesting that Congress that we're able to see these files.
All right, so look, I've been thinking, like, this is good. I'm glad Burlison and the other members are doing this. Okay, great. But this is definitely something to do. All right. How excited to get about it? I don't know. Again, it's just always a wait and see, essentially. But yeah, of course, go for it. The problem is that this is what I predict is going to happen, right? Nothing's going to come from this congressional push over the next few years. Nothing's going to come of fruition from Donald Trump releasing files and whatever. At least not what people want. Because most people that are, quote, want disclosure and all this stuff in the UFO community, they already have a truth. They're not open-minded. They believe a truth already. And what they're looking for is for that truth to be validated. Then you have other people who are just looking for the truth, no matter what that is, right? It's all BS. None of it's BS. Some of it's BS, right? Like, again, you just have a lot of different people with different expectations, but the people pushing, they're not open-minded in any way. They believe there's already a truth and they just want that validated. So unless Trump comes out with the "we are not alone" and we have a crash retrieval program and craft, and that they're going to say he got silenced. That's what's going to happen. They're going to say Congress got, threatened, silenced, somebody got paid off, all these different things. Trump, he's doing that, whatever comes out that doesn't meet their standard of what the truth is, it's a cover-up, right? And then I guess it'll start over again in a little while, because this push for disclosure has been happening since the 80s, 90s, same stuff, right? It's just like rinse and repeat. So again, until the real disclosure day comes, we're just going to keep getting false hopes, all these things. That's why, in my opinion, studying the phenomena outside of government is the best way to do it, right? Because what do we really expect to happen from this stuff? I don't know. Look, I want to be optimistic, right? This gets hard day after day to just be like, man, nothing's going to happen. I can't help it. I'm a realist, right? But I do focus on things that I'm interested in: consciousness, the mind, right? So I did the psionics documentary that's coming out this summer, right? I'm more interested in that stuff personally. But look, something could come from this, which is why we cover it and we talk about it, because there is a possibility that something happens, but there's also a possibility that it doesn't, right? So I think that's really all it is. But look, let me know what you think down in the comments, because all we have right now is just talking amongst each other and speculating and theorizing. And I think in order to get through this, we have to enjoy that the most. Hearing other people's ideas, thoughts, theories, right? Not shutting them down. Let's be open-minded and hear each other out, whatever that is, right? Because that's all we have, are campfire stories and, enjoying each other through this process. But look, maybe there is a little hope for some evidence, because during this AMA, Eric Burlison did talk about some things he's seen with his own eyes. Granted, video stuff, whatever, but hey, it's something. I want to see the stuff he's talking about. So let's let him describe a little bit of some evidence he has been able to see.
That I've seen objects move at incredible speeds between planes, and I'm talking like Mach 3, that are kind of an orb or kind of spherical object. And I've also seen glowing orbs, like that almost look like a ball of, like it's definitely a ball of light.
Congressman, if you yourself or Tim Burchett or Luna had seen some pretty jaw-dropping sensory data on UAP, UFOs, could you potentially, as Tim said, he's seen some things that really was wow, and I don't know if you've seen the same data or not, but if you did identify some of those potential sensory data that's really compelling, could you take that straight to the president and say, could you declassify these? And would that work?
Yeah, we can certainly ask the president to declassify. We can ask, send a formal letter, kind of like the one that we just sent off yesterday, and make that request. That's a great strategy to do that. And I think that what's also important to note is that we have, the documents that we made in that request have been given to us by whistleblowers and or journalists that have working with whistleblowers. And in those list of files, we have people on the inside that are monitoring whether or not those files are moved or deleted. So that's another thing that to keep in mind that we have in place. So they can't really deny that the files exist. They may have to say, but at the end of the day, they're not going to. If those are deleted, that will be extremely interesting to find out.
Right.
And you'll definitely know, because I'll be screaming from the rooftops.
So, all right, look, there's something positive to hang our hats on there, right? There's something happening. Could some of these videos and some of these things get out? They're monitoring the files, great. All right. let's at least be hopeful about something with that. What does it mean? I don't know, right? Everyone's got to decide for themselves how important that is, but at least it's something. And Eric Burlison's clearly seen enough to kind of keep his lips wet, right? Keep him interested in this. There's a little smell of something, maybe dinner's coming, right? I can smell something. I can smell some bacon crackling, right? So maybe there's something going on. I don't know. He seems very interested in this, and as of late, he has been the most on the ball with this. He does the most interviews. He's the most involved with the community about it, and he has been, right? He does X-Space recording. Like, no one else is doing that, right? So I commend Burlison. He joins these AMAs. He joins these little podcast interviews. Like, I commend him for really taking it seriously and doing the best he can. If at the end of it he walks away, nobody can say he didn't try his best. So shout out to Eric Burlison for doing the best he can with all the noise, right? And he's getting all the noise, more than we get. And if you think it's hard for us, imagine how hard it is for him with all the noise he gets. All right, y'all. Links down below. Go check everything out. We'll see you guys on the next one. Remember about us. Every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hey, Pat. This is Chris McCallum in Dallas. Listen, man, I just wanted to congratulate you, man, on 100,000 you hit, man. That's awesome, 100,000. And I will say this, I got about 9 of those. 9 or 10 are people I've turned on to you. So anyway, I'm good for 10 of those probably. So anyway, man, God bless you, Patrick. And again, man, way to go. 100,000. I'll see you, bud. Bye.